Hello there. You're welcome to another episode of the Positive Alteration School, where we focus on leadership and help people to see how they can harness their voices and communicate better and become better public speakers. I've been talking to quite a number of people. This time around, I'm talking to someone that I respect so much. He's my friend, business partner, and we've been doing quite a number of things together, but he's also a very busy person. Dr. Harry Benjamin. He wears many hats, I can tell you. He started off his adult career as a medical doctor by profession and became a businessman by experience. And he has built successful businesses in several different industries, and I must add, in different countries too. He's a published author, a life and business coach. He's been a part of a rapidly evolving business community since its inception, and he's one of the organization's trusted global expansion leaders. This year, I'll be happy to tell you that Dr. Harry Benjamin will be touring 7 different nations across the world to help people to expand their vision and be inspired to take action, while also supporting his partners to achieve their goals and their dreams. He's married with 3 amazing children. I have seen them. Amazing children. A very beautiful wife. He loves to have fun while helping others to be successful. So, Dr. Harry Benjamin, you're welcome to the show.
Well, man, thank you very much, my dear brother, dear friend. Very few people go by the name Stallone, right? That's one of those names that is so embellished in our minds and in history. And I remember when I met you in Nigeria, and I was impressed just with the name. And then after getting to know you, I became even more impressed. And I'm very grateful that we've remained friends. And those who are following your leadership and learning from you are truly being blessed by yourself. So how are you doing? I mean, how is your wife as well?
Oh, everyone is beautiful.
Because you have an equally beautiful wife, brother.
I usually would tell her that I do not deserve her. She's beautiful in and out. She's got a beautiful soul. She's there. She's doing very well, brilliantly well. The children are all fine, and I'm happy that we're able to have this conversation. I know you're very busy, and we've been talking, but here we are today. Um, I know I've done a bit of introduction, but let our viewers know who you are. I mean, give us a bit of your personal background and career.
Well, as you have shared, in terms of some of the accolades, in terms of background, I mean, started off in the medical space, but I veered over into the entrepreneurial space very quickly, primarily because I recognized early that a job had limitations in terms of how much income we could earn. And I didn't understand the principles at the time, but leverage through a business is what I was able to do to accumulate a lot more wealth than what I would have ordinarily have done by staying in the lane of what one calls, single sources of income that you generate through working a particular job. In my case, it was working as a medical doctor. So I became a businessman through experiences, and it allowed me to go into various industries. And as you mentioned, I've had the privilege of living in various countries. So I've lived in Jamaica, Florida, USA, Trinidad for a short period, Nigeria for 9 years, where we had an opportunity to connect and become very good friends. And currently I'm back in the US. On the inside of the process right now of just doing global expansion associated with mission that we're on, which is really to help people around the world to become self-sufficient financially and just really improve themselves and achieve their dreams and goals and their aspirations. And we're doing that on a global scale. And I have the privilege of being able to go to various markets to assist individuals in those markets to be able to reach their particular aspirations and objectives and play a part in helping individuals in that regard. So in a nutshell, and a second book is on the horizon next year sometime, early next year sometime. Second book comes out.
Beautiful. Now, Harry, there's something about you, there's this calmness about you from the time I met you. There's this calmness about you, 2 things, this calmness about you and this persuasiveness that you have. I want to ask you, how did you get to that point? We've had a couple of conversations. I know that there was a time I don't know if I still remember the story, right? But there was a time we had this, you told me this story about your driver who had an accident with your car. And then the way, the calmness with which you took everything, you have a way of shifting your mind away from the problem to say, okay, so what next? How did you as a person? And I mean practically, so people can take a look and say, well, this is not just some motivational stuff. But practically, how did you make that shift? How did you develop to that point where you you tend to live above the problem, stay afloat?
Yeah, so very good question, and thank you for that observation. You know, I learned this practice called silent meditation through the spiritual community that I've been with now for well over maybe about 17 years, 18 years currently. And,
Okay.
you know, Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, and he actually sees silent meditation as the foundation of spiritual practice. A lot of people don't recognize it. So a lot of people spend time or invest their time studying books, which is very good, and, you know, really reciting affirmations and maybe saying prayers, which are also very good use of some of the tools that we have around us that can assist us in becoming peaceful and calm. You know, peace is something inner. It's not something outside, right? It's not a peace is not the environment, because you can have someone who is at peace and there's a war going on outside, and you have
Correct.
someone who's on the top of the Himalaya mountains and they are torn apart, right? So it's not the environment that causes peace; it's an inner state of awareness or inner state of consciousness.
Yeah.
Through the practice of silent meditation, you become aware of this inner sense of peace that is natural. It is there, but most people are not aware of its presence. So because of being unaware of the presence, people tend to try to find peace of mind externally. So what they do instead of living life inside out, they live life outside in.
In.
And what happens is that the things on the outside determine how they feel on the inside. Those people
Mm.
who live life inside out, who have been able to recognize that these things on the outside just act as triggers to bring up unresolved emotions that exist within us. So when you understand it in principle, that it brings up unresolved emotions, and you've practiced this enough time, you've done enough silent meditation, you've done enough contemplation, after a while, you'll start to realize that there are triggers that bring up these emotions. And they're being brought up for us to purify them. And they're the practices that we can use to purify those emotions when they arise. But when you
Yeah.
learn that, then you'll soon recognize that you have a mind, but you're not your mind. Because a lot of people think that their mind that thinks is them. So
Okay.
when we realize that we have a mind and we're not our mind, then when the mind is thinking about a situation, you can allow the mind to think about it. And what the mind chooses to offer you, you don't necessarily have to accept or even agree with. So it allows you to observe the mind and what it's doing, as opposed to allowing the mind to direct your behavior. Because most of us, the
Yeah.
mind directs, you know, what we say, directs how we react to situations, directs how we behave to people around us, and we think that that's us, and we believe in, you know, in essence, that's our identity because
Yeah.
of, you know, some mistakes that we went through. But that conversation can go a little bit deeper. But essentially, silent meditation is the practice. I practice it long enough to become aware that my mind is a mind and I'm not my mind. Therefore, I can actually hear my mind thinking. So when something turbulent is happening in my life experience, I don't allow my mind to describe it in a way that will bring me down and bring me down. So I'm able to
Sure.
stay where peace and joy is, which is a natural state, while I'm still dealing with the things that I need to deal with. And then sometimes,
Sure.
you know, we can kind of slip down, kind of like Jamaicans were saying it, but, you know, you can kind of slip down into the experience, and momentarily, you know, you get so caught up in the experience that sometimes you can even forget, you know, that peace and joy are inherent within you. And, you know, you kind of, okay, let me extract myself back from that and go back to hanging out where peace and joy lives.
Correct. Thank you very much for that insight. It has thrown up a couple. It's thrown up a couple of things. First is, it's like people need to understand that first, your locus of control can either come from inside or from outside. So that means it's your center from where your energy that you respond to certain things or the things around you can actually come from inside, or you can allow the things outside to control you. You choose. And then secondly, I remember reading where the writer said, listen, understand that your mind does its thing. You should be able to listen to your mind. That's why I was happy when you brought that. You should be able to listen to your mind and tell your mind, you know what? I know you don't want me to get into this cold water, but that's where we're going. I know you don't want me to get up now. I know you want me to take another 30 minutes nap when I'm supposed to wake up by 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. You want me to do another 30 minutes. But you know what? We're getting up now. That if you keep doing that to your mind, from what I studied, and I'm practiced it a couple of times, I mean, for some years now, and it works. Whenever it gets to that point where your mind talks to you and you're able to listen to it and you say, okay, let's go. Over time, your mind gets to think, okay, he's not going to listen to me. Don't worry, we will just go. So gradually, you begin to fight the resistance of not moving when you're supposed to move. So like you said, practicing it over time, especially with meditation, helps you when you see a situation, you say, okay, first of all, how am I going to respond? I think many of us just react. We just jump into it without necessarily taking the time to step out, assess it, and then respond appropriately. But I've witnessed you a number of times. You were so calm. I think you may not have noticed this too, when we used to have conversations a lot when you were back in Nigeria. I also would notice this about you. A question is thrown or something is said, you take a pause, and then you say, I may not say it exactly, but I think you like say using this expression. I'm going to tell you. There's a way you guys say it in German. I'm going to tell you something. Like, I'm going to tell you something. There's a way you say it. So, but my point is, I've noticed that first you calm, and then you say, it's like you take those few seconds to think and say, okay, how am I going to respond to this? And I think it's a very powerful thing, especially even in the space of communication and public speaking, right?
Well, yeah, well, what happens is that a lot of people don't listen. A lot of people are just waiting for somebody to keep quiet so that they can say what they want to say.
Exactly.
But when you're really listening to an individual, there should be a pause at the end to make sure that the individual has finished sharing what they're sharing, to allow for to be able to respond appropriately. And you can't really respond if you're not listening, because what ends up happening is that you're just reacting to maybe something that was triggered within you in the context of what the person may have said. And just going back to finishing the first piece of the second part of your question, in terms of the persuasiveness that you were referring to, in terms of what is it that gives that strength to be able to continue to persist in light of what seems like there's a no. What gives you that, Thomas Edison 9,999 times to keep trying the light bulb? And that comes back again to the same practice, silent meditation. That practice allows for you to tap into the beatitudes of the Spirit, what are described by Jesus the Christ in the Sermon on the Mount, and talks about certain qualities. Strength is one of those, and peace is one of those. Joy, those strength to do anything comes from the Spirit. So a lot of us do not invest enough time courting the Spirit within ourselves and really becoming in tune with the Spirit. Some of us have heard the biblical statement that says you should worship God in spirit and in truth. So in spirit, so I have to go inside and seek to connect with the Spirit that we are. And a lot of people live the life at the level of thinking, which is the mind and the body, and live at that level, and never really invest the time to go deep into the soul and really get to know their soul and get to really feel the presence of their life, which is the Spirit. Now, that in itself takes practice and it takes time. It's not going to be, you just heard it through, listening to Mr. Stallone and, all of a sudden you become the spiritual being. No, choice. When we say we could choose to respond or choose to react, that's theoretical. let's get down to it practically. I mean, when somebody scratches your brand new Mercedes Benz, it's very difficult to come out and choose to say, hey, you know what? Are you okay? You know, is your car, you know, did you crack your neck? You come out and see that this guy who was riding a bicycle just scratched down the side of your car because he was on his phone talking to his sister or whatever and laughing and didn't see that he was running on his scraped side of your brand new Mercedes Benz. Are you going to come out and say, hey guy, are you okay? You know, is your leg bruised? You're not coming out like that. So what happens is that it sounds cool to say choice. You can choose to react, you can choose to respond. But the reality of it is that choice is a function of awareness. And our awareness is varies. You know, some people's awareness is very narrow, and some people's awareness is very expanded, because those people who practice meditation for a long period of time, their awareness is expanded. And what happens is that all thoughts are in all of our minds. All the thoughts available throughout eternity are in all of our minds. But it is your level of awareness of the thoughts in the mind that gives you access to them. So some people do not have access to certain levels of thinking. They just don't. So because they do not have access to a certain level of thinking, when something happens to them, they can't think about an alternative. That's why some people will be crooks. That's why some people will steal to be able to put food on the table, because their level of thinking does not allow them to do it differently. I mean, Socrates said it to us really well. He says that every human being is doing the best that they can at their level of understanding, because it's a function of where somebody's thinking is and their awareness. But the good thing about silent meditation is that it expands your awareness. And as your awareness expands, your choice expands. So choice is a function of awareness. The more aware we become, the more choice we have. So when somebody can't choose differently, it's not to be, you know, as we become more mature as beings on the planet, people recognize that, hey, forgive him because he knows not what he does. If he knew what he was doing, he wouldn't do it. He would, but he doesn't know. And that's why I have to forgive him.
If people knew better, sorry to jump it. So that people say, if people knew better, they'll do better.
Correct. If people knew better, they'll do better. Now, some of them know better and still do, but because of habit, you know, and you still go back into the loop, and you know, there's a payoff to doing negative things, right? There's a literal adrenaline rush that gives a feeling of feeling good, which is the good feeling that people are trying to get, you know, kind of like drugs. So they do that bad behavior to be feeling that feeling. And, you know, and unfortunately, that's a habit that, you know, a lot of people keep doing. So they'll keep doing a bad behavior, not because they do not know the behavior is bad, but because the feeling that's associated with the bad behavior causes them to feel good. Unfortunately.
Wow. This is beautiful. And I know that this is a space you enjoy talking about. And I know we will come to that. I know you've also written a book within this space, but we'll come to that. I want to take your mind back to 2016. I put together this program back then for network marketers entitled Drill Deep. And you were the keynote speaker. You came with your beautiful wife, if you still remember, at the Rembrandt. Then it was the Renaissance Hotel back in Nigeria.
Clearly, man.
You remember clearly, right? And I remember I still have pictures of, you know, of you and how electrifying your speech was, encouraging and motivating the people who attended the program. I want to ask you, can you tell us about a significant milestone or turning point in your career where you found that public speaking has been helpful? The power to communicate in an effective and impactful way has really helped you.
Well, you know, it was after I started my network marketing career. The network marketing has been my leadership vestibule. All right, that's been my leadership cauldron. That's where I've developed leadership skills. When I got into network marketing, I was already a leader in business, running a business that had over 110 people working for me. But I didn't understand at the time that I was just at level 1 leadership. according to John Maxwell. There are 5 levels of leadership.
Even with 110 people working for you.
Yeah, and I was at level 1. I was a positional leader. and they respected me because I'm the one who wrote their check. Not necessarily because of my relationship skills were developed, not because
because you were a positional leader at the time.
I was a positional leader, and I didn't know. Right? So for those who haven't read John Maxwell's book on the 5 levels of leadership, you want to grade it. I mean, I know Stallone knows those 5 levels at the back of his hand, right? So I was a positional leader without recognizing I was. So when I got into network marketing, I thought, when I saw other people succeeding and doing well, I thought I was going to tear it up, right? I thought I was going to tear it up, and I started off well, but the results I had gotten is just simply because of the respect people had because of the business that I owned. But in terms of my skill and the soft skills needed to be a relationship expert, where you can build relationships and people will partner with you and do business with you because they like you, not because you are assigned to a role that's above theirs, but simply because they like how they feel when they're around you. And I had to then start to learn and then helping people to create results. Because it's one thing if you want people to lead you, you have to help them. You want people to allow you to lead them in a voluntary environment, which network marketing is a voluntary leadership environment. You have to actually help them to create results. And if you're not able to help them create results, they're not going to stick around you. They're not going to follow you. And then, beyond that, helping people to grow through personal development and helping to develop people like what you do and train and coach and mentor people. So I had to learn that. And then the pinnacle leadership is when people start to follow you for what you stand for, as opposed to simply because you can assist them in certain areas in their lives. So when I got into this space, and it took me some time to recognize that I was not all that. And eventually I got into mentorship and got some really excellent mentors that started to help me to correct certain things that were necessary. And it is through that my leadership skills started to develop and grow. So my turning point was getting into the space of network marketing. That's what helped me to identify where my gaps were. And I accepted them, not immediately. Right? I accepted them after my results were not, I just wasn't earning the type of income that I knew I deserved to earn. And then I had to humble myself to recognize that, as John Maxwell put in one of his books, he said, a fool does not know himself to be a fool, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool. And understanding that statement and being able to recognize that, a fool, accepts his own counsel, and a wise man has a multitude of counsel. So being able to mature to where I was able to accept the opinions and points of views of others, as opposed to rely on my own, it allowed me to grow and then start to develop in that area. So that was my turning point.
Beautiful. So yes, you've spoken extensively about your trip into the leadership space and how you grew from level 1 onwards, helping people to gain results. I'm going to bring you back a little bit to the bit about communication and public speaking. Now, in the course of leading people and helping them to achieve results, how has your ability or your capabilities to communicate, how has it really helped you to help other people?
The key thing is that you have to be able to move people into action. And, you have to be able to be a SOI. We talk about ROI in business, return on investment. So in the space of people development and growth and helping people to advance themselves, you have to be an SOI, SOI, right? And I guess and it's the wrong word, right? But a source of inspiration. You have to be a source of inspiration.
So that's another one. You've come with your acronyms.
So what we have to do, I love them, right?
Yeah.
What we have to do is that we have to move people, communicate to people in such a way that it reminds them of the greatness that they have within themselves, right? Reminds them of who they really are and what powers they really possess. And then it's really reminding people about how powerful they are. And then when we help to remind them, there are two ways. One, you have to do something that is exemplary. So individuals who admire what you have done, not so much for their admiration, but so that they can recognize that, well, if you can do that, then I can do it too. And communicating to them in ways that allow them to remember this greatness that's within them is where communication becomes so important in terms of inspiring others to achieve greatness, because greatness is inherent. Greatness is natural, but a lot of people don't recognize that greatness is inherent. It's in our DNA. We're made in the image and likeness of greatness. We're a byproduct of greatness. And I see the word greatness as God revealing eternal attributes through noble entrepreneurial souls serendipitously. G, God. R, releasing. Right? Greatness, God releasing. Eternal, E, eternal. A, attributes. Right? T, true. And noble. E, entrepreneurial. Because all of us have an entrepreneurial spirit. And then souls, S, souls, and serendipitously through the gifts and the blessings that are inherent within our being. So we are all naturally great. But what happens is that we have mistakenly compared ourselves with others and see what another does, and we call this one greater than this one because of the deeds. When people look at people's deeds, that's a misunderstanding of our identity. The deed is not an identity. The deed is just an accomplishment. And everybody can do anything that they really set their mind to. And then, some of us may not want to do this, or may not be desired to do that. And it may not even be our mission in this particular dispensation that we're living in to do a particular area or a particular task, because we're here doing different things for the whole, right? Even though any one of us can do anything, we are not necessarily called or here to do anything, even though we can do anything, right? Some people are here to, right now, is maybe just open the door for somebody else to be able to get in, at that moment. So we have different roles that we play to allow for us to coexist in a way that brings around a certain level of harmony. Communicating is what helps to remind us of that inherent magnificence, right? Yeah. That's another word that I love. You are magnificent, right? Maybe after God's nature, forever increasing, continuously expressing your talents. So everybody listening is magnificent. Core, that's your core. Your core is magnificence. Okay, you cannot escape it. You can only make yourself small. You can hide your magnificence. You can cover it up. You can cloak it around. You can pretend like you're not great and act like you're not great and walk around forgetting how wonderful you are. Play the role of a victim all day long. Blame this one, blame that one, instead of accepting responsibility for the greatness that's within you and using that and then going out into the world and doing something that the world will remember and say, hey, man, that's Stallone. I tell you.
all right, Harry. Now, I have spoken to a number of people, and when we have conversations, usually one of the questions I usually ask people is how they actually prepare for speeches that they want to deliver. How do they prepare themselves for communication? I mean, events that they would need to communicate. I've had people say they always prefer manuscripts where they go word for word. I've had people who say they love outlines where it's just written out, the points are written out for them. I've also had people say they never write their speeches. They just say their speeches, record the speeches, listen to them again and again, and then build from there. I'm going to ask you, how do you prepare for speeches when you have the privilege and the opportunity to speak to people?
Well, it depends on what I'm asked to do. Some things that I'm asked to do, I don't need to think about it. For example, this conversation I wouldn't try to prepare for it because it's already within my wheelhouse. But if I'm asked to speak on an area that I really do not know much about, then I may have to go and do some preparation so that I actually can deliver some content that will be of value to the audience that I'm delivering to. So it just depends on what I'm called to do in that moment. That will determine what level of preparation I have to do. I believe in the 5 Ps, right? Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Yes,
So,
correct.
if we go ahead and prepare ahead of time, you'll always prevent a poor performance. So, but some speeches do not need preparation, but some do. So it just depends on what it is that I'm called to look at doing.
Okay, that's good. Now, I want to ask you, has there ever been a time where you were probably delivering a speech or communicating? I want to dwell around speeches. Has there ever been a time when you are delivering a speech and then for some reason you feel you've gone off curve? You feel, okay, I think I'm probably losing the audience, or this is not working. Has it ever happened to you, and how did you find a way around it? I'm going to give you the foundation. The reason I'm also asking this is people out there are so many people out there that feel, oh, the reason I don't want to speak, I don't want to even take up this role to speak, is I might make mistakes. But if they learn what to do, or from personal experiences, what people have done to get out of such situations where they go up, things don't go as planned, then they might pick one or two nuggets that will help them in their life. So if it has happened to you, if it hasn't, just let me know. If it has, how did you get yourself away from that and to still deliver your message?
Yeah, so it's to help, trying to help those who you want to see more people come into the space of speaking, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the objective of this
Yes.
session.
Yes. Yes.
And you brought up some very important points. Now, when it comes to mistakes, right, or not delivering a speech which is considered great or wonderful, right? Just to understand, perfection is in itself not possible, right? Perfection is
Correct.
just progress. Progress is perfection. So anything that is currently the best can always be bettered. Right? Anybody who sets a record, it will be broken one day. So
True.
life is progressive. So we have to understand that. So therefore, whatever stage we're at and wherever we're at, it's about how we can do the next attempt better than we did the last attempt. And how we
Okay.
do that is just to. So I don't uh, sort of lament the mistakes that I make, because sometimes you set to do a speech and you just mess it up, right? You just totally mess it up. But then
Yeah.
that mess, I look at mess as message, right? Age with a mess becomes a message. So before we can have a message to deliver to anybody, you
It's got
have
to
to
be a
create a
mess.
mess first, right? And then when the mess ages, you can use that mess, analyze the mess, see where you went wrong, what you did wrong, how you can be better, because you cannot improve upon something that you're not trying to do. If there's no activity, then you cannot even coach yourself, and nobody could coach you. There's a statement that we use in network marketing that says you cannot coach inactivity. You can only coach activity.
Activity.
So for you to be coached, or for you to learn from the mistakes you made, you have to make mistakes. Just mistakes is no different from a movie, right? When a director is filming a movie, what do they do? Take one, right?
True.
And then what do they move for after they finish take one? What they do? Take two.
Yes.
And then they finish, they took take three. Until they take, and then maybe take five becomes the take that they say, okay, this one got it. So all of those takes are mistakes. Mistakes. So each one is a mistake. And our life is no different from producing a movie. So for you to
Yeah.
have a blockbuster, there are going to have to be a lot of mistakes along the way to produce the blockbuster of your
Okay.
life. So trying to avoid mistakes is futile, and it keeps you stuck. So the word mistakes, I embrace it. I see it as making incremental steps towards accomplishing key and excellent success. So making incremental steps towards accomplishing key and excellent success. Mistakes. So if you embrace that, it's a progression of making mistakes, making steps forward that are all a bunch of steps,
True.
until eventually you can use those and look back and see, okay, this is what I can improve upon, this is what I did better. Most times, well, for me, when I finish a speech, I'll, in my mind, I'll kind of go back over it and see where some of the areas that I oh, I mean, I could have done better there. I could have said that. I could have done this
Yeah.
differently, and then reflect on it and then use that moment of reflection. So next time it becomes better, and it is a repetition that makes us better. The repetition of
True.
doing it over and over and over and over again. And then one day somebody will say, man, that guy speaks so well. But they didn't see you 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yes. Correct.
Your beads of sweat running down your
Yes.
forehead, right?
I do this sometimes when I go to speak, and I probably have a friend in there or someone who's gone there with me, and I'd say, I need you to critically evaluate me. I know I have had cases where I have told people, I do not want you, please. I appreciate your kindness, but I do not want you to tell me what I did right. I want you to focus on areas of improvement. So I get on stage and I'm using the stage. I'm moving from one point to another. I'm gesticulating. Sometimes, in as much as we in the public speaking space do not encourage people to clasp their hands because it shows it's a sign of fear of self. But we want you to free yourself, embrace the audience, and gesticulate. Gestures could be too much. Now, in as much as we want you, it is recommended that you use your voice appropriately or your vocal variation. You should engage in vocal variation. Sometimes the voice can be louder than the room or even too small for the room. In any case, you need someone sometimes to tell you, to help you to say, you could have gone like this. Sometimes even you could, I do that. I know I make that mistake sometimes. When I get so passionate about something, I flow through with a particular tone across board. But you need to sometimes come down and then go up again. It's like music. It's like you're cooking something. You don't want to go hot, 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 or too cold. But sometimes I forget myself because I'm in this space and so I have friends that would come later and say, you know what, your voice was strong, but it was monotone. So that's the way I also check myself. I get to a point where I tell myself, okay, you know what, pause. You need to pause, take a breather. So like you said, it's when you take one, take two, there are mistakes. So I would like to say every mistake takes you closer to your take, if you understand what I mean. Every mistake takes you closer to your take. So when you deliver a speech and you miss your line or you miss what you want to say, don't dwell on the mistake because it it will harm the rest of the speech. It's done. You leave it and then you move on. Sometimes you deliver a whole speech, like you said, and it is a mess because you really did not hit the point the way you wanted to go, and it can't really rub off on you. It can't really eat into your self pride or esteem. But letting it go, understanding that it's a way for you to learn and to become better the next time. That's the most powerful thing. But I'm going to also ask you at this point, say, are there any upcoming projects? Let me take you away from speaking a little bit and say, are there other upcoming projects or ventures that you are excited to share? I know that you talk to lots of people, you lead communities. Is there something that you're working on that people who probably would say, I think I love to connect with Dr. Harry Benjamin would say, hey, this is where you can meet me and then we can do something together?
All right. So here's the thing. Financial self-sufficiency is where my focus is.
Okay.
Helping people around the world. Now, if you go to any imam, any pastor, any individuals who work in the synagogues of the world, the Pope, the priest, whatever term we use to describe the religious leaders of the world, the number one prayer request that they all receive is for more money. All
Why is
across
that?
the board. And the main reason is that our existing school system in our society did not educate us about money. So we didn't learn how to take $100 and turn it into $1,000. We didn't even learn how to start a business and successfully grow it. The school system doesn't include training on taxes, right? And people grow up and become adults and are thrown into the world and then end up making a bunch of mistakes when it comes to money. You know, even the idea of Solomon said for 3,000 years ago that we should have 7 different streams of income. He said that 3,000 years ago, and most people today have 1. So as a result of that, a lot of us do not understand money, and we become enslaved by it because we go about trying to access it in the incorrect way, which is to work for it as opposed to having money working on our behalf. So a lot of us didn't mature into that, and as a result, we need to correct that error. So the move right now that I'm a part of, and the movement that we're seeking to establish in the world, is to help people to become financially self-sufficient in a practical way. Because I'm a leader that believes that I need to do the very thing that I'm actually talking about. Because there are some of us who talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk. And I get it, you know, because some of us may have a role to teach people the principles of something as opposed to the actual practical thing of it. And I believe in walking the walk, you know, so I'm actually practically doing the things that I'm encouraging individuals to do to become financially more stable. You know, one of them is trading the financial markets, and we have an academy for that. And we're spreading and circulating that academy throughout the world. And apart from identifying individuals who are going to use the services, we're also looking for leaders in various parts of the world that are going to help us to spread the message and to get the information into their communities. And that is really how we're going to be able to make a major impact. Because when we get money problems out of the way, it frees up a lot of the mind. You know, a lot of people worry about money and worry about how they're going to pay their bills and how they're going to take care of this or that. And there are ways in which now we can actually earn money much faster than the traditional ways of working for it by using technology. So we have some great solutions in the world, but people do not know that they exist. And we are a part of an organization. I'm a part of an organization, and we're going to run the world educating people on the tools that they have available to them. You know, we have smartphones these days that have access to the financial markets. Right there on the smartphone, it's really an ATM machine. Most people don't know how powerful the tool is and what's in their hands. And people use it for Instagram and Snapchat and those good things, but it can be used to generate cash flows very quickly and very efficiently, much more efficiently than traditional ways. So that movement is afoot. And thank you for asking that. And then for those people who may have an interest in understanding this more, you know, of course, you reach out to me. I mean, I'm one of those individuals that I answer my phone. Right? You know, I'm not afraid to take a phone call, right? Because I know how to say no.
Yeah.
I'm very good at saying no.
Okay. So, yes. And I'm going to, okay, I don't want to forget this. I know you wrote a book. I mentioned this. Do you have a copy of the book? Is it there with you?
I forgot to get
okay,
it.
Yeah, we're just going to wait for him to bring the book.
Yeah.
It's a great book. Yes. All right. So I know I got one of these when I was back in Nigeria. I read it. Beautiful book. You did not use acronyms. You said they are racronyms.
Oh, you remember that?
Yes, I do.
I was inspired to create the word by putting an R before acronyms because I use existing words like mistakes. It's not an acronym.
Okay.
You know, because it's a word, but I brought the word down into what is a acronym because I did it in reverse. The process of creating, and I looked it up if there was a word to describe the reverse of an acronym. So the process of, because creating an acronym is using LATAM, LATAM, right? LATAM is in Latin America, or, you know, NBA, right? National Basketball Association, or national, you know, I think the other word is baseball, or whatever the term is, right?
Okay.
So they use the first letter of the word to create an acronym. And that's what an acronym is. But the word from using an existing word and breaking it down into words that actually match the letter of each each letter in the
Yes.
word, like greatness that you heard me use, and and so
Yes.
forth. So that's where the whole idea of the acronym came from. I was
Acronym.
trying to
Yes.
add an R to acronym and created an acronym. So my first word, I contributed to the literary of humanity, right?
Yeah.
The inspiration of the spirit within me allowed that to come through.
Beautiful. Now, listen. How would you tell for those who might be curious, what's this book about? Would you take a minute or two to tell them what the book is about? I've read the book, it's beautiful. You use words to explain situations and to help people to think deeper. And so you see words like mistakes, or like you said, you say mess age, and the way you use that. And for me, after reading the book, I never saw words the same way. If I'm reading and I see a word that hits me, I'll just say, what can I create out of this word? So for me, the point is, it knocks in a level of consciousness. Anyways, let me not do the talking. Why did you write this book? What is the intent? What was your intent? What led you to writing the book? And what will people gain if they decide to go? I know it's on Amazon. If they decide to go ahead and get this book.
Yeah, so, well, the purpose of the book and the aim of the book is to become aware of inner peace and joy, regardless of the circumstances and situations in our lives. So, regardless of
Okay.
what's happening in your finances, in your physical health, in your relationships, because those are the three things that are, kind of important, right? Your physical
Yes.
being, what's going on there, what's going on in the relationships to the people around you, and what's going on in terms of your money, right? Those are those are the three key areas that we tend to need to kind of get right. So in those
Okay.
three areas, when the physical health is not optimum, okay, it can actually allow you to descend into a feeling of being depressed. When the
Yes.
relationships in your life, whether it's a spousal relationship or one with your children, if you do have biological children, or maybe you have children that you adopted, or through relationship you have children that are a part of your life, or relatives and friends, you have relationships around you that are not working well, or your finances is out of discord and there's no harmony there, then those things can cause us to forget that sense of peace and joy, which is a natural state. So the text is really geared towards helping us to remember that, and practices that are in the book to help us to do that. Now, the acronyms that are used in the book is the way the Spirit had inspired me to use those as a way of bringing about that awareness. But the ultimate aim of it is for us to become aware of inner peace and joy, regardless of the circumstances and situations in our lives. So regardless of what's going on, you can become aware of peace and joy and sustain it, even though things may not be what you would like them to be in that particular phase or moment of your life.
Beautiful, beautiful. So how can people get the book? You said it's you. I know we chatted before this call, and you said it's on Amazon, right?
Yes, it's on Amazon as an ebook. So
Yes.
A Book of New Thoughts is the name of it, and the
Okay.
author is Dr. Harry Benjamin. So if you go and search the title and the name, it should come up, and then you could go ahead and purchase a copy if you'd like.
Good. A Book of New Thoughts, and the author is Dr. Harry Benjamin. Again, Harry, I know that you're building a community, your business, and all of the things you've mentioned. Are you open to speaking at conferences and seminars and delivering keynote addresses, even if it's not, outside your core business community?
Yeah, I do that from time to time as my schedule allows, and it's
Okay.
not something I've participated in different types of activities over the years, and I still do. For example, this is one such activity. This
It's
definitely is
good.
not
It's
driving the
beautiful to have you, my
business,
brother.
right?
Yeah.
This is an hour of sharing and gifting this time to the individuals that are going to take this in. But I understand that as well. It's important for us to be givers and not takers. So in some instances, just share. You know, I do know that the seeds that I may sow here today are seeds, and you know they'll come back with a harvest at some stage. You know, that's just life. And if you hold
Yeah,
on to those seeds, you don't give them a chance to go out and germinate to bring you back fruit. So
yeah.
it's not, we reap what we sow, not where. So if I don't take the opportunity, and if you don't take the opportunity to sow, then you're really not going to be able to collect the harvest.
Correct, correct. I agree with you 100%. My last question at this point is, and that's a question I ask everyone that comes on this show up to this point. I don't know if I'm going to change the question later on, but the question is, and it's a fun question, so I need you to relax. The question. So the question is, if you could have dinner with three communicators or public speakers, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Jesus the Christ. All right.
That
So
was quick. That was really quick.
I have to hook up with my brother. All right. I, I definitely want to sit down with Martin Luther King.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Wow. Really? I didn't know you were going to mention Ralph.
Oh man, I've studied a lot of his work. I mean, I've studied a lot of his work. I mean, you know, just so he has such good work, man. I mean, that was in my early days of getting into personal development. You know, in understanding the divine compensation is one of his books, many books, you know, and the compilation of his works and so forth. But just so much depth in Ralph Waldo Emerson's work. So those are the
Okay. So
individuals that come to mind.
yeah. Okay. So you've given me two.
You said I
Do you
said
have a
three.
third one?
Yeah. Okay. So it's Jesus, Martin Luther King, and Ralph
Oh,
Williams.
oh, I didn't catch Martin Luther King. Okay, great, great stuff, great. All right, that'll be all for now. Thank you very much, Dr. Harry Benjamin, my friend. It's been ages. And it's wonderful to speak with you on this platform to gain your insight, to learn from your wisdom. And I hope that someone out there would hear your voice. Like I told you before we started, Les Brown said the reason he's training people is because so that people can use their voices to reach those who listen to them. And I tell you this for free. I have this friend of mine, he's still my friend. We used to do business together, who I was talking about Les Brown and how I listened to Les Brown and the things I learned from Les Brown. And when I say some things that Les Brown has said while teaching or saying some things, he told me something. He said, you know, I never liked that guy, Les Brown. And I said, why? He said, I don't know. I've never listened to it. His voice just hits me in the wrong way, and I just don't. But most times when we have conversations, you bring out things that Les Brown would say, like when he says, you've got to be hungry. And then you tell me stories about Les Brown, and it's making me go back. He went to bring some CDs, or no, he went to bring some, was it CDs or books? I can't remember, some materials. I said, listen, this is Les Brown, this is Les Brown, but I've never taken a look at them. So the point I'm trying to make is that I know that Les Brown is a powerful speaker, world-class, A-class speaker, but this friend of mine would never listen to Les Brown. But when I say the same thing that Les Brown says, copying from Les Brown verbatim, he listens because we're friends. We have a relationship. So when I listen to Les Brown say people listen to people's voices, not everybody listens to the same set of voices. I think that's correct. And so we never can tell. I don't know who's going to hear your voice. The thousands of people in Nigeria back then that you've helped, and people all around the world that respect you, may just hear your voice and say, okay, if it's coming from Dr. Harry Benjamin about communication, public speaking, and how it connects to leadership, I think now I want to pay attention to my leadership and communication style. That is a go for us. That's okay for us. So thank you so much for coming
You're
on the
welcome,
show.
man. You're welcome. You're welcome. And of course, those who want to reach me to find out about financial empowerment so that you could increase your cash flows. If you already have a lot of money and you want to increase it to be a lot more, okay, all right, you can reach me through my phone number. So Mr. Stallone, just send him a message. He'll give you my phone number. I don't care anywhere in the world you are. You can have my number. I'm cool. Okay. You
Are
can
you
send me a
serious?
WhatsApp. I'm serious. I don't hide. You know, I have nothing to hide. You know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So just send me a message if you're interested in knowing more. But remember, I
Okay.
know how to say no. Okay. Just remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is a warning to everyone. This man does not know how to accept no. So he's very persuasive, respectfully. He's very persuasive, never gets angry, and he keeps knocking. And I think, and I've told you before off camera, and I'm telling you again, I think you need to write a book. The world needs to read from you when it comes to
on gentle
persuasion.
persuasion, right?
Yes, I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
I
I've said it a number of times and I mean it. So thank you very much, my friend and my brother. And my regards to your family, and do have an amazing rest of the evening there in the US.
Thank you. Blessings to you
All
and your
right.
family, man. Bye bye.
Okay then. Bye for now.